Yeah. So I'll ask you once again. So, uh, what are the key life experiences have formed that who you are basically today?
So I would say not necessarily, well, life experiences, but I would probably chunk them into three different categories, which would probably be um, poverty,
Huh?
racism, and mental illness. So I can talk a little bit about each one, but I would say probably it's kind of tough because I think that these are different levels. And so like I think that I really understood poverty first as a child and then racism and then mental illness. But I really think that a lot of it is interconnected and
Yeah.
a lot of it is systemic. And so um, with poverty, I would say that something that was really hard was being able to have stability. And whether that was to get from one place to another
Yeah.
safely, whether that was being able to have a consistent education, a consistent living environment. Those are all things that created their own set of adversity, adversity.
Yeah. That was a
Um,
tough phase. Uh,
yeah,
Yeah. Great.
yeah. And then so the next one I would say would is prejudice or racism. I have witnessed my mom has been in the hospital for I mean, she's been in there a lot of times, and so I've seen it exist within the medical field, with how she's treated. I've seen it. My dad is from Mexico, and so he had a really heavy accent, and so all my life, I just heard and saw the way both him and my mom being mixed race, so black and white. She's darker complexion, and so seeing the way that they were treated again kind of reinstills this narrative of who has the right to live and who has the right to access. And not only that, but that was really tied into my dad moving from Mexico.
Yeah.
And what was
Yeah. That was some that was great. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you. Not the experience, but
Yeah.
no,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Of
glad I
course.
could respond great. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And the next question is like, what made you become passionate about involving in our city, Phoenix? Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so actually, I think that I had always had some type of connection to nature. I think that's where I always ran to as a kid. And so I think I was really driven to the comfort and presence of nature as a way to ground me. I think just as a kid, I didn't understand that as a tool enough to use it the way that I use it now. Um, but I will say that when I started to become aware, and so I I grew up in underserved communities, and then went to underserved schools, and then I taught in underserved schools. And what I didn't realize until I actually got into university as education and outreach manager is the lack of knowledge around these environmental justice issues and how it directly affects and relates to communities specifically. And so when I got into that position, I was learning about environmental justice work I mean, obviously there were things going on in the news and whatnot. But here's the thing, because although I'm grown now, it doesn't mean that like my whole life situation is like magically fixed. And so, a lot of the things that I dealt with are still existing. I just have been able to remove myself as an adult and exist kind of on the outskirts of that. And so when I got into what I realized is that these environmental justice topics, this data, all this information wasn't being appropriately shared to communities in a way that they could understand it, in a way that made sense to them. And I understood that because here I am, someone from the community, someone being talked about because, these were data pieces, these were communities that I lived in, that my family lives in. And so for me, I was very much like, well, why in the hell don't I know about this? Like, what is it here? And so what I started to see is that although we have these institutions, public education, universities, whatever it may be, although we have these institutions to understand these problems, if it's not communicated to the people, it really doesn't matter. And so for me, what I was realizing is that there wasn't intentionality behind the way people were being educated. And so for me, I started to work with community members, and in working with them is when I started to get a bigger picture of the needs of the community. And so for me, what I started to see is that no matter what learning community I was working with, these same problems were existing. And so for me, it was more of like, okay, clearly the way we're doing things doesn't work. And so we have to do things differently. And so for me, it was about prioritizing community first and getting my literally my hands dirty in the garden, the community garden, but literally getting my hands dirty and being present in the community enough so to understand, not just at a surface level, at numbers and papers and visualizations, but on a personal level, because it helped me to realize what was really important and to remind myself that at the core of this is our people's lives.
Yeah.
And so, and that was it for me. And then also understanding, having a daughter. I have a three. Oh, she'll be 3 on Monday, but having basically a 3-year-old and seeing like these people, these youth, they're out there, and people understand that they are like the climate and their experience is affecting their health and their well-being. And I really have trouble just sitting with that. Like, I don't know, like, for me, I feel like it's not right. I don't know, morality, I guess.
Okay. Advanced wishes to your daughter.
Oh, thank you.
So, and the next question is that what are the core values you follow and how do you make them reflect to your work that you do?
My core values, I would say, are I want to even say I want to even say just my core value is community, because I think that it's like community for me, because I feel like if I list different things, then it paints the picture that there are different things and there's not. There is just community.
Yeah.
There is just, there is interdependence, and there is community and collaboration. And for me, that's when we think of things as a community, whether we're looking at a greater than human community, like a community of plants or community of animals, or a community within an ecosystem, or you're talking about people, we really are talking about the same thing. And when we prioritize needs of communities, actual communities, because that's not what we actually do now, like I feel that it's really hard to go wrong because you're looking at things as a greater picture, because a community isn't just the things that make it up. It's it's the weather, and it's the happenstances, and it's the interactions, and it's the relationships.
Right. Yeah. So, and the next one is so who are the people or the other creators, your co-creators that basically involved you or they motivate you or who have influenced you? So, who are they?
Can I say community again?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that resiliency, like the resiliency of people inspires me. And I think in so many different facets. Like I think, like even like y'all, like the studio design students, like y'all are coming from all over places, like to learn about design. Like
Yeah,
that's inspiring to me, like to go out of your box to learn about how other people do that. My daughter, who explores outside and picks up every little thing and asks questions and has a sense of wonder, that inspires me. Like the resiliency of people to overcome and to connect, I think, has been the greatest inspiration for the work that I do for sure.
yeah. Community is everything, right?
Yes, exactly. You get it.
And the last question today, what do you recommend the youth or myself or every other creator who is aspiring for the future? So what do you recommend them as a future creators, maybe of our series?
Yeah, I would suggest understanding and healing yourself first
Yeah,
as a person is so important, but also remembering that you're a person and that we're people. Because I
yeah,
feel like it's so easy at academics to extract and to separate and to like
mhm,
look at it surface level and forget that there are these really complex pieces that exist at the core,
yeah,
um, that we can't separate from the conversation. And
yeah,
so I think trying to be more creative and inclusive about the type of knowledge you gather
yeah.
and also, making sure that you give that knowledge back in whatever way you can. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah. And that's all questions I have in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was great talking to you. You have so much to tell. You have so much to explain. Yeah, you have a lot of knowledge with you. Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
yeah,
I hope I get the opportunity over the course of the rest
yeah,
of, the time together for me to learn a little bit about yourself as well.
yeah, yeah,
You're part of the community as well. And,
yeah,
I hope that, as you create, again, you bring yourself to this because you are creating, and so you have your own lived experiences. And I encourage you full-heartedly to show up as your best self.
yeah,
Yeah, because the work that y'all are doing is incredible and it's change making. So
yeah.
thank you so much.
Thank you, and yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Okay.
have a great day. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
you as well. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, same here.
Alrighty.
See you. Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah.